Well, joining me now is Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur on the Occupied Palestinian Territories. Thank you very much for joining us. First of all, your thoughts on Netanyahu's offer of $5 million to any Gazan who offers up an Israeli hostage, that reward being put in place today?
It sounds an insult. It sounds an insult to the families of the hostages. It sounds an insult to the right to life, both of the hostages and of the Palestinians who are trapped under constant bombing, to the Palestinians who have been killed. We are at 43,800 right now. 70% of the victims are women and children. And again, the fact that Israel, with the support of the United States, continue to put new conditions, new clauses, it's preposterous and untenable.
And what are your thoughts on the latest political development today, and that is the United States vetoing that UN resolution for an immediate and unconditional ceasefire?
I think the same. It's preposterous and untenable. Look, it's 14 months that the United States do not only support the current atrocities in Gaza militarily, financially, politically, but the way they hamper the work of the Security Council, it's an affront to the United Nations and what the Security Council stands for.
You say that the US is supporting the atrocities in Gaza. The reason for the rejection is that there wasn't an articulation of the condition that the hostages be released before any ceasefire.
Well, and this is why I say that it's preposterous, because for a long time, the United States have claimed that there was not enough emphasis on the release of the hostages. In the proposed resolution, there was reference to the release of the hostages. The point, you see, is that the atrocities in Gaza need to be stopped no matter what. The right to life of both the hostages trapped in Gaza and the Palestinians trapped in Gaza is not conditional upon anything. So the hostilities need to stop, full stop. And of course, the hostages need to return home. And so the Palestinians, the 9,000 Palestinians who are detained, most of them without charge and trial, need to return home.
You've recently returned from Gaza and described it as unfit for human life. What did you find? What did you see?
No, actually, I never set foot in Gaza as a special rapporteur in the last 2 years and a half. So my statements are given based on the evidence I collect remotely, both through direct testimonies and through the work of forensic, legal and technical experts, both on the ground and remotely.
But that is something that the EU has said, that it's unfit for human life.
It is. I mean, if you look at the satellite imagery of Gaza, if you look at figures of the destruction, both of civilian infrastructure, hospitals, the lack of homes, the lack of basic water and hygiene services, what is left of Gaza is not fit for human life. So this is a problem, a human-made disaster, human-made catastrophe, which is going to impact generations. So in the immediate, what is to be done is a ceasefire, because only the ceasefire can end the hostilities, hence the continuous death of civilians by artillery and sniper fire.
You have described the situation, and correct me if I'm wrong, in Gaza as akin to genocide.
I have. In 2 reports, I've been investigating Israel's military conduct and political decisions for 14 months now, and concluded in March this year that there were reasonable grounds to believe that Israel had committed at least 3 acts of genocide: killing, infliction of severe bodily and mental harm to Palestinians in Gaza, and creations of conditions of life leading to the destruction of the people, with the intent with the determination to destroy. And in my second assessment, I provided further context, imploring the international community to look at the overall conduct, at the totality of conduct and crime against the totality of the Palestinians in Gaza, in the totality of the land. Because while the attack on Gaza is wild and brutal, the fate of the Palestinians in the West Bank is nothing really better.
But the president of the ICJ, at the time of their ruling, has said that the court decided that the Palestinians had a plausible right to be protected from genocide and that South Africa had the right to present that claim in the court. It did not decide that the claim of genocide was plausible.
No, it did not, because in 15 days, the court didn't have the time to look at the merits. However, over three separate occasions, in January, in March, and in May, the court has issued provisional measures that are binding, both for Israel and member states. And if observed, they would have led to the end of the hostilities, as it was even proclaimed in May. And also in February, in another case for genocide initiated by Nicaragua versus Germany, the court reminded member states of their obligation to stop the transfer of arms, of weapons, to a state which might plausibly commit genocide. Therefore, member states who have not complied with this provisional measure are in serious breach of international law and the Genocide Convention.
But you would agree that determining genocide is complex. Intent has to be demonstrated. And I have to put it to you that there have been several allegations accusing you of anti-Semitism. The US Ambassador to the UN, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, has said that you're unfit for your role and that the United Nations should not tolerate anti-Semitism from a UN-affiliated official hired to promote human rights. What's your response to that?
That I expect no less from the government of a state which is complicit with the crimes that Israel is committing. But the point is that my assessment is not an isolated one. There are 30 independent experts who have joined this assessment. There are Israeli genocide scholars, other genocide scholars, including the leading expert on genocide among lawyers, William Shabazz. There is an increasing consensus, let alone among certain member states, that what is going on is genocide. But let me say something. What the court has decided in January this year, without even getting into the merit, the mere plausibility that acts of genocide were being committed is enough to trigger the responsibility of member states to prevent genocide. So the point is, what have member states done to comply with the provisional measures of the International Court of Justice, and specifically with the obligation not to transfer weapons? This is what we have to talk about.
We're running out of time, but I just wanted to ask you what you think the effect of a forthcoming Trump presidency will have on the trajectory of the war.
It doesn't look good, looking at the statements of the appointees for various governmental functions. It doesn't look good at all. But these, I hope, will trigger a sense of humanity and reason and respect for international law and multilateralism in the other members. Among the other members of the United Nations. There are 193 states, and they need to act promptly in order to restore international law, because this is the only way to pave the way forward for sustainable peace for both Israelis and Palestinians.
Francesca Albanese, thank you very much, UN Special Rapporteur for the Occupied Palestinian Territories. Thank you.